In this video, you'll learn how to draw this Carnotaurus dinosaur. First steps I do is I try to block in the major, biggest shapes. I try to work biggest to smallest. So let's get going. So in my drawing here, I'm going to have the dinosaur's head kind of live in this spot. I'm just kind of using circles and squares and just irregular shapes, just trying to mark out where things should live. So I want his head to be, his head's in the foreground, so it's going to take up the majority of the space. I'm just putting placeholders for his horns. It's Carnotaurus has two like devil horns. Kind of placeholder for his eye, and then the nose cavity socket. Kind of drawing like a mini skull right here, and just kind of throwing in. It's going to be an eye. So we've got mouth. Come down. So this is already the top part of his head. Then I'm going to try to, probably going to see a little bit of his other side of his jaw, just because his mouth is open and the perspective we're at. You're going to see both sides of his bottom jaw. So this is his inner part of his mouth. So this is coming down to here. So I kind of can anchor. This is going to be the bottom. So I want this mouth to look like it's supposed to close. So I gotta make sure I have a long enough bottom jaw. Sometimes you can get too long or too short, and it's just gonna look off. So you gotta make sure your bottom jaw looks like it would fit the top jaw. Okay, so now we got that, and I'm gonna just start. So his neck kind of comes out this way, and it comes down to his body. His arms are here and here. I'm not getting detailed with them yet. I'm just place markers, kind of scribbles. This is what they would call like the gestural-ish like step of a figure drawing. So I'm just placing out where his legs would be. Again, not trying to put any detail, just trying to figure out the shape and placement of things. So there's the back leg in my image, and then in this image the tail kind of comes off this way. So as long as I got all that stuff, now it's starting to read like a dinosaur coming towards you. A lot of dead space over here, but that's to allow the tail to be kind of whimsical and off to the side. So you need that in order for him to be balanced. So, but once I have the drawing done, you could always put it in Photoshop and then kind of move it wherever you want. This is traditional work, so I'm just drawing right now with a 2B pencil on computer paper, so I'm not really spending a whole lot here. But I do use Copic markers and micron pens. Those are a little bit, but yeah, so here now I'm starting to draw the tongue. Now maybe put some placeholders for some teeth, just so I know. I mean, I got the reference in front of me, but just so you guys know where the teeth are. I'm going to now start just putting in some shadows with my pencil, just laying it in softly. Just blocking in now some major shadow areas. I am going to use Copic markers, but it's just sometimes nice to get some texture with a pencil underneath. Don't have to rely so heavily on the markers to get everything across. I like to put like things behind, like the background legs and stuff, in the dark. I don't like to put a whole lot of emphasis or detail. Right here I'm just trying to block out major shapes and major color tones, and like black and white, like differences. So here I'm just drawing the toes. Okay, so I know that typically your underbelly is going to be in shadow, so I'm just going to put this all in a different gradient than the top part of the dinosaur. So I just want to make it aware that everybody knows that light's coming down. It's pretty standard for most things. The drawing or the image that I'm looking at is pretty well lit, so I'm just kind of making up shadows now, which I'm just making sure if I had a light shading down what's going to be in shadow, everything that's below the head or below the belly and below like the knee, because the way that the legs are, it's going to be in shadow. And I try not to, if you're bad at drawing hands or bad at drawing certain things, try not to put too much detail in it. And if you have loose sketch lines, you don't have to necessarily detail out everything. Sometimes just getting the drawing done is better than spending an hour trying to get the hands right. So the more reps you have, the better. So now I'm going to start pushing some finer details. Just getting some more detail lines in. Just doing some teeth. This gives me more of a boundary for me to push the mouth dark. That way I know where the teeth live. If I don't do this, then it's like kind of guessing. Okay, so I want the, and still some lines. So we got Carnotaurus kind of blocked in now. I like it, it looks pretty good. So now I'm going to start getting more dark with my lines. So at the beginning, I guess I didn't mention that I go real soft with all my pencil lines. I'm just kind of, the softer I go, that's easier to erase. So I don't want to go in harsh until I know things are going to be where they are. It's just easier for you to erase a light drawn line than it is to erase something that's pressed in real hard. So it's a tip, I guess. Draw as lightly as you can the first half of the drawing until you know where everything's going to live. Now I'm going to switch to micron. Sometimes I switch to a fine point, sometimes I switch to the thick point. It doesn't just matters of which one I kind of pick up, but today I'm doing the heavier dark lines. So I'm just going to, I know that the mouth is going to be black, so I can kind of come in. I like this chisel edge because I can get a thin line and a thick heavy coat line. Covers the most ground. As far as I can do tight lines by just using the corner of the flat tip, and then use the flat part to just blanket cover. Black. So this is stark black. I don't want to go too crazy, covering as much as I can in, but I want to just get some of the major blacks, major lines that are dark established, because I don't want to go too heavy of a dark line on the top because that's where the light is. So I want a very fine line if I'm going to outline it, but the bottom of the dinosaur can be heavy lines because it's in shadow. See how this is going to probably be in light. I want it to be fine. This is probably darker, so it doesn't matter. Just kind of using what they call weight of the line, just trying to assess where I want thin and thick lines, and if I don't care, I use this guy. But when it gets to like the thin stuff at the top and like this line, probably want it to be more heavy duty. See how I didn't care about drawing the arm too much. I'm gonna probably put most of this in shadow, so I'm not too worried about the details. Granted, I have been drawing since I was 7 or 8, and I'm 30 something now, but yeah, you get better over time. So I practiced drawing hands and feet, and so it's not, I'm drawing them fast because this is real time, but it does help the more practice you do. So like I practice trying to get as many drawings as I can done, so I used to do like animation in college. I took a couple animation courses, and you're drawing the same thing over and over again. So if you draw the same subject matter over and over and try to pick up on different ways to do things faster and faster, it's not a must, but like I think it's a good idea to try to pump out as much, have more at-bats, like have more artwork done. So the more paintings or drawings or whatever you can push out, the more likelihood you're going to have a couple duds, and you're going to have a couple winners. So the more lottery tickets you buy, the more chances to win. So if you spend too long trying to draw one thing, you're just shooting yourself in the foot as far as ability to potentially get more at bats, so to speak. So here I'm just going lightly. Thought I was going to use the fin. I'm able to use the light pressure on my this particular pen, and I'm just gonna, instead of switching, I'm just gonna go light, very light, tail. Maybe throw some other lines in there, but so now I'm gonna bust out the micron markers. I like to use the grays first, so I'm gonna pick like a mid-level gray, like a C5. I'm just gonna kind of hit the belly. You know this is all dark. It's all underneath belly and arms. Just gonna throw this guy all at a C5. And I know this is gonna be darker, but I'm gonna throw that as a C5 as well, on the inside of his mouth. It's just easier to just build upon. It's okay if I hit some of the teeth. I've got white pen that I can come later with and bring them back, but not all teeth are going to be white, so that's the other thing. So I don't want to necessarily go too crazy. So we're going to hit this hand and maybe go a little bit there. Just anywhere I kind of put the pencil shading in. Now maybe top of the eye, some shadow, maybe the horn, just throwing in spots. Okay, so now I'll use the brush part, get a little bit finer, just throw some lines to show wrinkles and scales. Just the more texture I give at this point, it's going to show up when I go over and over and over. So I build up with the different layers. So this is like the layer 1 is my pencil line drawing, and then layer 2 is my grays. I start with this mid-level gray, and then I kind of go slowly. I go lighter and darker. So I'll push it and pull both ways. So I got the mid-level gray down, maybe a couple more spots, mid-level gray, and okay, so now I'm going to go with the lighter gray, So I'm just going to pick the C3 and just kind of blanket that in. Bottom jaw, maybe bottom of the top lip of this guy, maybe some more of the cavities, and kind of go all the way up. Maybe some more of this, just kind of melding in that C5 that I had. Push some of the skin, just try to pop that tongue a little bit with different hue, different colors. Just remember thinking light coming down, so I want this guy to be mostly belly and shadow. Put some there. Okay, now I'm going to go with the dark, so like C7. So now I'm going to use the C7 and I'm going to put in some more darks. So this isn't quite black, it's like a little darker than the C5. So I'm going to use this. Again, just trying to get the mouth to pop and be darker than the rest of the darks. Yeah, just throwing in sparingly some of these lines, just wherever I want the darkest darks to be, I want to kind of place this C7. Again, I'm using it kind of haphazardly. I'm just kind of scumbling along the paper to get wrinkle lines and texture for what would be potentially looking like scale. Again, once I put some color over the top of that, these grays are gonna kind of fall out. I'm gonna come in with my type marker or type pen, do the eye, darken that. Maybe throw some finer tip pen marks. Maybe throw some crosshatch and some spots that I want to get some texture, and maybe you can do some curved crosshatch just to give the illusion of roundness. And, yeah, don't be afraid to just do whatever you think is needed. So I'm just going to do some dots around the mouth just to break up and make it look like there's scales, maybe more wrinkle lines, more illusion of bumps and scales. So just adding here and there, just different marks. These are all going to get covered up. I'm going to use a couple reds and browns because every Carnotaurus I've ever noticed in books and TV shows and that they kind of use the red coloration. I've done them in different colors, but it just seems like everybody likes the red, so kind of makes it look a little more like a devil. Alright, so now I'm going to start adding some colors. Maybe I'll start with this dark sutra, which is like a brown. Actually, instead of that, I'll start with like using this toast color, which is it's like a tan. It's the perfect, to me, it's like the perfect underbelly color, and it's not too yellow. It's just like a light tan brown. So I use it to kind of just do the bellies, because most animals have a lighter underbelly, even though it's typically dark because it's in shadow. It's usually lighter color. So like think of your deer or even lizards, they usually have a light, like yellowish white bottom or belly to them. So I would imagine most animals back then also had that same effect. So just nice to throw this color in. It will meld out too with the other colors, so I just kind of use it everywhere, but don't need to use it in like the tongue area, but I feel like you can just scumble it and it'll get washed out with the next couple layers of color. But like using that as a start. So now I'll go back to that. What was it? Dark Sutra, or was it? Yeah. Dark Sutra. So I'm just gonna see what that looks like. Okay, so it's like this is like a brown red. So I'm gonna just throw that, kind of blanket this in. It's not too dark, even though it says it's Dark Sutra. It's a light kind of brown. So just blanket this in. I'm not worried about the marks until I get close to the edges, and then I know that I'm going to do a couple layers, so maybe here I'm always just, the skin color, I'm always just making it up. I just kind of grab whatever markers are kind of close, but I do have a little bit of a game plan at the very beginning. I have, I can kind of work light to dark with my marker colors and try to, because once you go dark you can't go back, so you can always go darker over a light color. So I have no problem doing that. It's just you can't go lighter over a dark color. It's hard to go backwards. So I'm intentional with my color choices, not so much when it comes to like the other steps, but okay, so I think I got this brown throughout the whole thing. It's kind of a reddish brown. Make sure I hit the one more time and maybe hit some of the spots. Even if you go over this marker a couple times, it can give the illusion of scales. So like I don't want to not hit it a couple times. So there we go. So that's that color. Now I'm going to maybe use a weird pink. I'm going to use this light prawn. I like this for the tongue and the webbing. And sometimes I throw it in the mouth, but like I have such dark grays in there, you don't see it, but I like to throw it in there. So that maybe you put a little bit in the eye, maybe sprinkle some of it along the top of his head, just to give some different colors. Like again, it's Carnotaurus, so it's gonna have more reds. So this is like a pink. So throwing a pink is a good white highlight color, even though it's not going to show up too much. It's just flavoring the brown. So I'm working all over the whole body. I kind of want to scumble this color. Whenever I use color, I try to use it throughout, even if it is like a blue, which I'm actually going to use a pale blue here. I think some blue lines are going to be nice to cool it down. And they're not going to necessarily show up as blue, because now that I have a brown and a reddish brown, they're gonna be more like shadows. But like it's just, sometimes it's nice to use not just the gray, throw some color, different colors in there. So I'm gonna have blue in the horn, maybe blue, some blue scale marks. This is probably going to get a couple more layers of color in a second, so it's not going to, the blue, even if you see blue coming through, it's not going to be that. I'm going to use like a red. This is crimson, so maybe you'll see how that looks. I'm going to just use this sparingly at first, just to see, okay, kind of a purpley color. I just want to very lightly use this throughout, but I want to use it throughout. I want to throw it in all different spots of the dinosaur. I'm probably not going to hit the bottom jaw, but I'm going to, or the belly, but I want to hit like some of the outer parts that might pop. I think that's enough of this crimson color. Okay, I'm going to use cadmium red. Let's see. wet in some spots. I'm using these harsh reds, just straight up reds, but I'm using them sparingly, and then I am probably going to go over this one more time with either that dark sutra color, and it'll kind of wash out the boldness of the red, if there is any. Just kind of following the contours. Okay, and so that's probably enough. Maybe I'll use this burnt sienna. I think I'll give a brown tone. Yep, burnt sienna. I'm just gonna throw that over. So just basing how dark it turns out on the paper is where I kind of like decide where I want to put it. Just kind of notice it's a kind of a darker brown, so I'm using it as the shadowy parts. Okay, so I'm almost getting to a part where I think this is good. I'm gonna almost wrap up in a second, but I'm gonna do the shadow on the ground next. Because right now the dinosaur just looks like it's floating to me. So a lot of times when I do the shading, I like to use the C5 and just kind of give it like a ground to make it seem like it's grounded. And right now it's just floating, so like you think that this leg could be up in the air, but in reality it's planted on the ground. So I want to make that seem like it is. So I want to put in a cast shadow on the ground. I mean, I know most of my shadows are coming straight down, so it's just making like a little puddle that it's standing in a shadow. So just, and if I create like a horizon line, a horizontal, it makes it more feel like it's sitting on a table or something. And then once I get this gray down, and then sometimes scumble in, just pick a green or olive green or some sort of uni color and just throw on some grass blades, and it's just an extra little effect to keep it, to break up that gray, so it makes it look like it's sitting in grass. Now you use this green. I might even just scumble some green in here. It's going to be the opposite of the red, so it's going to really not like each other, but like sometimes it might help pop. Like the eye here, I'll put a couple dots. I want the eye to be mostly white, but like you can throw in some of these greens, and it'll really kind of mute the shadows. It's not. I'd use it sparingly, just like the sharps colors. But now we got Carnotaurus kind of coming at you. I'm going to come in with this white jelly pen, just to bring back some of the teeth. And fix a little bit of the eye, highlight. Put in some highlights in the head, around the nose. Eye, a couple dots, and on the webbing, the tongue, put some, make it seem like it's wet. Yeah, just a couple dots. I don't want to get too crazy. I think this is mostly done. Throw some sparkles, and then the last thing I like to do before, I guess I'll sign it, is I like to hit it with some white chalk. I find the white chalk, I can get more shimmer effect over the top of my marker. So I'm gonna, in this blank space, I'm gonna put my name. Why not? Ben Greenlee's. Just looking at it in the mirror or in the thing, I want to push. This is all the same kind of tone, so I'm going to use a C7 and just kind of push this leg back into darkness. Same with his arm. I don't want this all reading as one color. So I just want the face to come out towards me. So I'm just looking in. It's a nice thing about taking a step back or looking at your canvas in the camera. It shrinks it so you're able to see some of the deficiencies. So I'm trying to just make sure that everything comes out. It's popping. So that's the name of the game. This contrast kind of makes the whole thing come alive. So maybe throw some darks. Last step is I like to hit it with that what I call the chalk or whatever. It's new pastel. So I'm just gonna hit where it kind of in the same areas I put the white pen, just a little bit. It'll be the whole top of the tail. Kind of it'll mute that line. Kind of fade it out. You don't want draw too much attention to the detail of that. Near the top of the head, just a line. Back of the neck. And I think that's pretty good. Well, thanks for watching. If you watched the whole thing all the way through, please consider liking and subscribing. Yeah, follow for more dinosaur drawings.